Donald Trump keeps getting asked about this, and the more he shuts it down, the more people are going to ask questions and demand answers. He posted on Truth Social today calling it a scam and a hoax. He said, "My past supporters have bought into this BS hook, line and sinker." But Donald Trump has spoken again about this because he keeps getting asked by reporters. He's trying to shut it down, but he did say that he believes all credible files should be released.
But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
It seems as though he's losing control of this story because he's comparing the Epstein list to other deep state hoaxes. But as you pointed out, we got plenty of evidence and information to get to the bottom of this and get to the bottom of the truth for that to be revealed. People on both sides, as you say, want answers. It's what the American people had been promised, and this administration has really failed to deliver. It's interesting, Attorney General hit back at reporters when she was asked about the tensions between herself and Dan Bongino. This is her response.
Is there disruption at the leadership of DOJ and the FBI with your relationship with Dan Bongino that is affecting the operations of the DOJ?
No, I'm not going to talk about personnel matters. No, I was with Director Patel all morning, and we are committed to keeping America safe, making America safe, working with our incredible partners at DEA, FBI, ATF, U.S. Marshals to do everything we can to make America safe, and that's what we're focused on. And today we're focused on protecting our kids. And I would ask all of you, when you leave, go look at that wall outside, right outside this room, of all the fentanyl deaths, all the faces of fentanyl that you have done an amazing job putting up.
She didn't say Dan Bongino's name there. She just referred to Kash Patel. What are you hearing of what's going on behind closed doors? Is everyone still fighting?
Yeah, Gabriella. I mean, at the end of the day, what appears to be one of the bigger issues when it comes to the interconnections of DC is that different than any other administration we've seen before, we're seeing a lot of loyalists be in these positions in the government. And it's no secret that a lot of these individuals are also close friends even with the individuals that have, say, large X accounts that also are, talking heads or journalists or commentators on television. So another piece of this puzzle is that it appears that the administration is still operating and confiding in the ways that these individuals would have before they got into office. And they're quickly learning that anything that they really say could very easily be put on display online, whether for good nature or for bad nature. So I don't think, it doesn't appear to me that this Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, hard line between the two of them right now, this contention is plain made up. There's a lot of credible individuals that are very close to both separately and together, actually, that have reported on the same thing. So I think it's just a learning lesson for them all, truly, that what you say, media, in a sense, media matters, right? What you do say to your pals, whether it's the people on TV or the people that have large accounts on social media, your words are going to be heard, whether you were intending for them to be or not. And so for something like this, especially when, again, this is an issue that both the base and individuals that maybe necessarily didn't even jump on the MAGA train from the get want answers to. Absolutely. This is where kind of culture and politics collide. So there's no hiding in this sense. And she's got a lot of work to do to kind of, make right or wrong. Bongino at the same time, too. I think that's where the frustrations come from, because his show highlighted a lot prior to him joining into the government role he's in, was a huge highlight about Epstein. And so, again, Trump himself, too, really having to come face to face with something that's one of the very few times where the administration kind of makes a hiccup that just simply can't be ignored. They do a lot of course correcting, and they did it a lot in the first term, but this is just one of those things. You just can't let it go. This transcends beyond politics. and more of a bigger question of, does the government kind of think we're stupid and we're just going to be okay with a memo being dropped on the 4th of July weekend? I mean, that even in of itself, whether you want to say that there was nothing in this, and, we can go through semantics, talk about Epstein's history, talk about what the deal was with that, whether it's justifiable or not, that video being doctored or having the minutes being pulled or whatever.
Let's talk about that video. Wired is reporting that the Jeffrey Epstein prison video that was recently released by the DOJ had almost 3 minutes cut out, not 1 minute that was originally reported. So this was the only functioning camera near Jeffrey Epstein's prison cell the night before he died. And the video was released last week as part of the Trump administration's commitment to fully investigate Epstein's death. But this has just raised more questions about how the footage was edited.
Yeah, absolutely. Just looking at the footage that they put out and, even comparing it to, say, the image, the one sole image that was put out of the Epstein cell back when he allegedly committed suicide, the footage doesn't appear to reflect that photo that came out years prior. So one is factual, one is not, or are neither true, or, what's going on there? I think that just adds an extra element of more questions that just need to be answered. And there is this little bit of fear, right? Of if the government gives you more answers, and does there become an uproar? Can the public handle the truth? But at some point, we are almost so desensitized from the truth. We spent how many years in our country accepting what our higher individuals, our government officials have told us. And that was the whole point in the birth of the MAGA movement. Yes, Trump wears the MAGA hat quite literally and, physically and figuratively. But there's an America after Trump. And so I think we almost got comfortable in not asking questions and just having more trust in these people of power. So to answer that question and maybe, water it down a little bit more, is that it's a good thing. Maybe they tried to attempt to give us some footage, but it doesn't appear real. We have a liability and a right to ask that question. We didn't forfeit it just because we voted for President Trump and trust him and his administration do a good job. They also need to trust us to keep them honest. It's a two-way street here. And that's a really important element that we just can't let up on, no matter what information is then being given onto us. And again, the justification from Pam Bondi of why those minutes would be not there, it didn't seem to add up. And again, she should be able to answer that question once more, Gabriella. So, you focusing on it, I think is the right answer here. We all are.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we can be Trump supporters and still demand answers. Let's turn to what is another huge scandal, Biden's autopen. The White House is investigating former President Joe Biden's use of the autopen, and tens of thousands of documents are being reviewed. This story is just wild. The autopen was used to sign pardons, including preemptive pardons for members of Joe Biden's family, also Dr. Anthony Fauci. The only one that happened to be signed by hand appears to be for Hunter Biden, which he said he would not do. And in his final weeks in office, Biden granted clemency and pardoned more than 1,500 people in what the White House described at the time as the largest single-day act. Where is this investigation going to go?
Oh, well, it shouldn't stop. I can tell you that much. I actually, when I worked at the White House, I had several roles, but one of my final official roles over at the White House was one of which had autopen privileges. So I know the process very well. And I can tell you that there are individuals, there are two offices that are completely apolitical that stay between each administration. One is the executive clerk's office. They're the ones that handle from start to finish every single thing the president signs. And then the other element, the other office, is the actual Office of Records Management that physically mans the autopen. Both of those offices are still intact. They maintain and are responsible for all the historical elements of the presidential executive power. They know who is utilizing the autopen, because once the whole process is delegated in writing. And so it would begin that process by the staff secretary. And when the staff secretary starts an email thread, it has the executive clerk's office following the whole entire process with the Office of General Counsel, being the White House lawyers, and any other entities that need to be involved, utilizing Joe Biden, in this case, Joe Biden's signature. The very last action item in that email chain is now, it begins with the staff secretary and it ends with the staff secretary. The staff secretary saying, ready for AP. AP meaning autopen. The executive clerk takes the document, produces it, prints it off on their own computer with nice White House bond paper, and walks all the way up to the highest floor, the 5th floor, over at the Eisenhower Executive Building, and hands it on over. Present, doesn't leave, hands it on over to records management, where they turn on the auto pen, and the clerk also signs their name on paper, so it's being cataloged as well in writing and in email who is touching the auto pen, who is part of this process. And I mentioned that, and just kind of a watered down version of exactly how that works, is because the last that we heard, right, was from GOP oversight calling in Neera Tanden, the second of 3 staff secretaries. And the staff secretary position in general is a very unsexy term, but it actually is one of the most important, most confidential roles at the White House. People don't really recognize that. It's revered as the nucleus of the administration. And so Neera Tanden being in that position, and then the third person being Stephanie Feldman, who took over for her, Neera Tanden was brought in by GOP oversight recently and said, point blank period, under oath, perjuring herself, saying, I don't know who authorized me to authorize on Biden's behalf the auto pen. Then all of a sudden this New York Times article comes out and Joe Biden says, it was me, and it was my chief of staff. And so now that we're starting to hear this overall cover up, which appears to be in pattern with politics in Washington, D.C., but now you have all 3 of these people, Biden himself, him saying his chief of staff was also involved in these pardons, that being Jeff Zients. And then again, as I mentioned, the staff secretaries all very guilty in this. And I point that out because you say, what's left of this? Well, for the auto pen, in the Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, it says that pardons and clemencies are non-delegable. So that means that power is not being transferred to any individual. For Joe Biden to say, and in this New York Times article, he thinks he's doing a good thing, covering his bases, saying, I approved these things. But he also said that he was delegating Jeff Zients, the chief of staff, to then put that pressure on to the staff secretaries, and then by default, those 2 offices that I say maintain that process of actually executing the auto pen. So this is a huge mess, not to mention, as I said earlier, that this is all cataloged in writing. That's the standard operating procedure for auto pen always. No one is ever utilizing that thing unless they have clearance. So what's the right direction here? The right direction is for GOP oversight, if they're serious, and it appears that they are, to continue working with National Archives, because between National Archives and the actual servers at the White House under White House Communications Agency, all that information is right there, because you still have people that were in prior administrations, to include the Biden administration, in those 2 offices I mentioned, still there at the White House, that could tell you everything. And if they don't tell you everything, it's all in the email. And if it's not in the email, that in and of itself is guilt by omission, because it needs to be cataloged when the auto pen is utilized in place of a sitting president exercising a physical signature. So that's what I have to say about that. I know it's a lot, but I did work closely with it. So
no, we
really
appreciate it. It just shows it's absolutely unbelievable. I do want to talk to you about Hunter Biden, because he has spoken out, weighing in on why the Democrats lost the election. And he says it's because of the Democrats' disloyalty to his father. He went on Jamie Harrison's podcast and said, we lost the last election because we did not remain loyal to the leader of the party. And he went on to say that we had the advantage of an incredibly successful administration and the Democratic Party literally melted down. Wow, that is what Hunter Biden had to say. So nothing to do with the cover-up of Biden's decline, the open borders, the gaslighting from the Democrats, or even the scandal about Hunter Biden himself and the Hunter Biden laptop and the evidence of influence peddling. I mean, Gabrielle, what do you make of what Hunter Biden's had to say?
I'm trying very hard not to laugh, because it's not a funny matter, but it kind of is, in the sense of, I mean, just based off the things that you listed out, it's like, can you be more tone deaf? But there is a silver lining here. I never thought that I'd be like, thank you, Hunter Biden. But Hunter Biden saying all of that just proved not that we needed any more proof of what exactly happened with the Democrats in the last election, where they stole the votes of their own delegates and their own constituents and just installed Kamala Harris. But he just said exactly what we all were thinking. The Democrats turned on Joe Biden and kicked him out so he couldn't run for president again. Yeah, do I think it's crazy he thought that Joe Biden would do great continuing on yet again? That's insane. But what's more insane is that he has no issue in the name of defending his father, saying, yes, the deep state is real here, and they kicked out my dad, and boy, I wish they didn't, because he would have done a great job. All of that is I can't even wrap my head around it. I truly cannot.
Finally, Gabrielle, we've got to get to one more topic before I let you go. The Obamas have addressed divorce rumours. They addressed speculation around their marriage on Michelle Obama's podcast. Let's take a look at this.
Wait, you guys like each other?
Oh, yeah, really, huh?
That's so
The
nice.
rumor mill. It's my husband, y'all.
She took me back.
Now, don't start.
I can't.
It was touch and go for a while.
It's so nice to have you both in the same room
I
together.
know.
I know, because when we aren't, folks think we're divorced.
It's interesting. They've barely been seen together in months, and they're, of course, joking, saying, you know, oh, it was touch and go for a moment, but there's often a lot of truth in some jokes.
Oh yeah, Gabriella. I mean, they're just trying to gaslight us. This is outside of politics. They're just trying to gaslight their public perception. And honestly, not that gosh, you're going to make me say a bunch of things I never thought I would say, like, thank you, Hunter Biden, for being honest, or, oh boy, I feel bad for Obama. But I mean, for his relationship, my gosh, this actually reminds me so much of Will Smith and Jada Smith, and kind of just the lack of wanting to protect a marriage, or, maybe even just you say the perception. They admitted that the perception of their marriage isn't positive. And as a joint cohesive couple, you would imagine that they would take it a heck of a lot more serious, especially representing the country for such a long time, and being that quote unquote pillar of hope, putting it in their words. And this looks quite hopeless, unfortunately. And I don't, champion broken marriages by any means, but they're just it's just silly. It's like a Meghan Markle type of situation, or, like I said, the Will Smith couple paradox. I don't like to be a part of it, and this is not fooling anybody. Certainly not fooling me. So,
Gabrielle Cuccia, thank you so much for your time. So great to speak to you here on Power Hour.
thank you. Appreciate it.